Pro Football Playbook, presented by the Pigskin Podcast Network, your source for team news, draft needs, player profiles and rankings, full Senior Bowl, Combine, and NFL draft coverage, news, analysis, discussion. It's in the playbook. Now, here is your host, sports journalist Bill Alvstad, and featured analyst Keith Myers. Welcome into the Pro Football Playbook. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with Keith Myers, my co-host. Keith, how you doing?
Doing good. Let's talk some football. We are, working our way, getting closer and closer to the playoffs. Still got a ways to go, but the playoff picture is starting to get interesting. It's kind of less interesting in the NFC, unless you want to talk about the battle for the last spot, whereas in the AFC, like pretty much every division is like up for grabs still, and almost every team in the entire conference is within striking distance of a playoff spot. So it's been a really fun year over in the AFC.
So I thought what we do is we kind of just go through the top two teams in each division and segue into kind of what the playoff picture looks like right now. As this podcast evolves over time, we do 2 shows a week. One's going to focus on NFL teams. The other one's going to focus on NFL draft. As we kind of get towards the end of the season and postseason, we will focus this portion of the show into team needs as they relate to prospects, player profiles come into play, who's a good fit on which teams, all that kind of stuff. For now, though, we're going to focus on playoff push, who's in, who's out, all that kind of stuff. So let's start with the AFC. And I just wanted to start with the currently the best team in the AFC by record. And I just want to get your thoughts a little bit, because they do seem kind of flawed even with the best record, and that's the Baltimore Ravens, sitting at 8-3, currently the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Yeah, it is interesting that they are the number 1 seed, because they are a flawed team. I mean, their offense can go long stretches without doing really anything well. And then they can, it's Lamar Jackson. So all of a sudden he'll, break a couple tackles and do something that we feel like we've never seen before. And they'll score a touchdown on the play when you're like, well, okay, that should have been an 8-yard sack.
Yeah. When your quarterback throws 4 interceptions on Sunday Night Football, and you still win, it's going to be a good season for you. The ball's bouncing your way, and
that game was terrible. But the defense was their defense was great. Jackson had one of the worst games of his career. They're one of those was like one of those deflections where guy gets his hand on a ball and it tips up in the air, and you're like, okay, whatever, it's not that. And then there were ones that were he just threw it right to the defender.
The situation really is, when you get to the playoffs, can the Ravens hold off the Patriots or the Titans or the Chiefs or the Bills? Are those teams better teams? And the fact that we're even talking about the Patriots in that list is shocking to me.
It's surprising. They started the year looking really not like a
they're
good team.
Currently the number 2 seed in the AFC overall, which is crazy at 8-4.
I thought we were going to do
we are going to do the
2.
We are going to do the 2, but I couldn't help but mention.
You're just jumping straight into playoffs.
Okay, I'm trying not to. I'm really trying. I swear. All right, so let's stick with the AFC North. How about that, Keith?
Yeah. So the second best team is the Bengals, and yes. I think coming into the year, the Bengals had a chance to be surprising and whatever, but I don't think anyone expected the Browns to be so, uninteresting. Yeah. And everyone expected a lot more from them, but they've had a lot of internal strife. They had to jettison their best receiver. They're dealing with some injuries, and it allowed the Bengals to ascend, and they're playing, pretty good defense. They're,
they've defeated the Raiders and the Steelers by a combined 57 points. Mm-hmm. They're playing really well. Their point differential is a lot better, in a lot better shape than the Ravens.
Yeah.
But they're the
Bengals have given up
seed.
They've given up fewer. They've given up fewer points than the Ravens. And the Ravens have a really good defense. It's winning them games when their quarterback throws 4 interceptions. And the Bengals have been better. They're only 1 game back. They still have a game against the Ravens. They have a chance to overtake them.
Well, if the Ravens would have lost against the Browns, the Bengals would have been sitting at the top at this point. So,
yep. And the Browns would have been really close in that 3 seed. So,
yeah. So, okay. So there's the AFC North, Ravens and Bengals. Look like both playoff teams to me at this point.
At this point, I would say both of them.
We're going to talk about 8 teams. There's only 7 spots.
Yes,
so,
well, actually, we're gonna talk about 10 teams.
Okay.
In the AFC, because
you are true. You're correct.
There's no way to get out of the AFC West without talking about all 4. Because
let's talk about the AFC West.
Because there's the first place team, which is the Chiefs, who started out struggling like crazy, could not play defense. They've kind of got their act together. They've quietly kind of gone on this run where they've won 4 straight, and now they're 7-4. They're in first place.
They're returning from a bye week.
Yep.
And we'll see if they can keep that going. Yeah.
They've got the offense has kind of found itself. The defense has kind of found itself. And I'm sorry, everyone else, you had your chance. The Chiefs were down.
The Chiefs are, but it's not completely over. So the Chiefs sit at 7-4. All the other teams in the AFC West are 6-5, but 4 of the Chiefs' final 6 games comes inside the AFC West.
True, and that's what I'm saying is you had your chance. The Chiefs were down. They were 1-3. You could have. I mean, if you run away with the division at that point, you got the best team in the division, the team that's been to the Super Bowl the last couple of years, sitting there and at 1-3, and nobody took advantage. And the Chiefs found themselves. They figured out what was going on. Now they're back. They're 7-4.
Their defense is starting to play better, which is good news because I think they have one of the better offenses. We do know that. In fact, they have the best offense in the AFC West. But who is the second best team out of all the 6-5 teams? Currently, technically, the Chargers are sitting second in the division. But the Broncos seem to have the best defense. Are the Broncos equipped at all? Like, is there some way we could find out if the Broncos are close to the Chiefs? Oh, maybe like Monday night or Sunday Night Football. The Chiefs take on the Broncos.
The Broncos have a nice roster outside of the quarterback position, and I like Teddy Bridgewater. I'm one of the bigger supporters of Teddy Bridgewater that you're going to find, but I also recognize that he isn't going to carry a team the way that Patrick Mahomes or Carr or Hubert does. He's the worst quarterback in the division. They have the best defense in the division, so you can get away with that. But when it really matters at the end of the season, or if you get into the playoffs, how comfortable are you winning with Teddy Bridgewater versus one of the other guys that's truly a star quarterback?
With a great defense, and their defense has been really good. They've allowed 100 less points than the Chargers at this point in the season. Can they carry the team? I don't know if it's that.
And Raiders.
Yeah, right. I don't know if it's at that level where they can carry the team. Bridgewater's definitely going to have to make some plays. He has made some plays, but he's definitely a guy that's going to get you into position, but I don't know if he's the guy that's going to win you games.
Is he going to carry you? That's the thing. And
we're going to find out.
That's the part where if I'm looking at all of this, I like
which team is going to rise up? You like the Chargers?
I like the Chargers. I do. I mean, they might have the worst defense of the group because they can't stop anyone in the run, but they've got a good offense, and they've got this, in my opinion, the second best quarterback. So, I would think that, looking at all of it, I would, if I was a betting man, and I'm not, so don't bet on anything that I say. But I would take the Chargers to finish second and make the playoffs. And I would expect the Broncos to finish third and maybe also make the playoffs. The Raiders have.
Why are you discounting the Raiders?
Because their defense is the worst in the division. Their offense is the third best. So they've got the number 4 defense and the number 3 offense. Even though they've got the same record, they're just not as good of a football team. They lost their head coach. They started to kind of, there's just been a lot of mess.
They do have a winnable game though coming up against Washington at home.
That's true.
They could end up being 7-5. They could, and the Broncos could fall. Chiefs could start to pull apart a little bit.
The Raiders need that game.
This, if the Chiefs happen to lose Sunday night
to the Broncos, that would be.
This division is wide open.
Yeah, I still think. I mean, anyone betting against the Chiefs at this point, given how bad they were at the beginning of the year and the fact that they've finally found their footing and gotten things going, and they're the most talented team,
and it's a home
with the
game.
best quarterback.
And the Chiefs Stadium there is Arrowhead is just crazy.
Yeah, if you're betting against the Chiefs in as far as winning that division, I think you're throwing your money away. So Kansas City, like, they're the team. And then like I said, I think the Chargers come out of it. I wouldn't discount Denver. I think Denver's got a chance to make the playoffs. I don't think they do anything once they get them because they don't have the quarterback play. But
my predictions show at the beginning of the year had the Denver Broncos being right on the bubble, like a playoff team. But I really didn't know what was going on with Drew Lock and Bridgewater at the time. And they're still kind of that team. They're still right there, They could go either way. So let's talk about one of the divisions I think that is the most surprising for me, in that right now the Patriots are above the Bills by one game in the AFC East.
Possible? The Patriots are this team. They've got a rookie quarterback.
They didn't even have a quarterback before the season started, really.
Yeah.
They didn't know what they had.
They were supposed to be rebuilding. They've got some issues on defense. I mean, they did get a bunch of guys back from that opted out last year. They had to trade Gilmore, their best cornerback, leading up to the season. I mean, they seem like a mess. They're in the middle of this rebuild, and now they're 8-4. They've won 6 straight.
Yeah, and a 23-point victory over the Titans.
Yeah,
which if other fans around the NFL you've faced the Titans or you're a fan of the Titans, that's a nice quality team. And you've had difficulty getting past them, and they just took it to them. Like, I'm kind of enamored with this team. It's just one of those things where they're 8-4, and they've really got a chance to be the number 1 seed in the AFC.
So they do, but I do kind of expect them to come back down to earth. And the reason
who do you expect to rise, though?
The Bills. I still think the Bills are the most talented team in the division, and I think so. They started out hot. They've had this slump, and I think they'll get going again and pass them. Part of the reason why
they lost to the Jaguars, and they lost a 26-point loss to the Colts.
Yeah,
that's a kind of a slide. That's a pretty tough deal.
So the Patriots have already played 7 home games.
Yeah, but the Bills have to play the Patriots twice in 4 weeks. That's going to be the tell. You said that they were going to rise up. That's what they would have to do. They would have to beat the Patriots twice.
The Patriots have already played 7 home games.
And the Bills have to play the Bucs as well.
So
in the next 6.
The Patriots have 2 games at home and 4 games on the road.
Yes, but they're 5-0, aren't they? Aren't the Patriots like 5-0 or something like that on the road?
But who have they played on the road?
It doesn't matter in the NFL. Those road games are brutal.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that road tested Mac Jones. What? Like, how is that even possible? He's a rookie quarterback,
but he's not. Go look at it. He's played great in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but he wasn't great before that. I think you're overselling all of this.
Yeah, but he's a rookie. I mean, a guy's gonna kind of have to work into stuff.
Agreed. I think he's been great, and let's not discount what he's done.
But I'm not
going to really not discount what Bill Belichick has done.
Go look at the point differential too between the Patriots and the Bills. It's shockingly almost the same.
It's
okay, so identical. let's finish out the AFC, talk about the Titans and Colts. This is one of the more interesting divisions. I think everyone was going to hand the division to the Titans. The Titans had some early struggles. The Colts struggled a lot early, and then the Colts started winning, and then they fell off again. So now the Colts sit at 6-6. Titans have kind of come up to 8-4. but seemingly with a less than stellar defense and an offense that is waning just a little bit.
The Colts have scored 26 more points than the Titans on the season and have given up 7 less. They've played better on defense, and
that just shows you how fickle the NFL is.
And better on offense, but they're 6-6, whereas the Titans are 8-4. One of the things I think with the Titans
that's consistency right there.
Yeah, the Titans have so many injuries. This is one of the most injured teams. I think they might be the most injured team in terms of players on injured reserve and games lost and that kind of stuff, because they're missing so much of their team, and they're missing the heart and soul of their offense in Derrick Henry. I think what we've seen recently, they've lost 2 straight. I think the injury situation is starting to catch up with them, and the drop off in talent from their starters to all of these backups that are now playing is starting.
They did have a bye week. They have a bye week, and their next opponent's the Jaguars. So they do have a chance to get right.
The Jaguars are a team that you can get right against.
And as for the Colts, I just think that they're flawed. I mean, Carson Wentz against the Buccaneers threw 27 consecutive passes, and they went away from Jonathan Taylor because the Buccaneers were just intent on not letting Jonathan Taylor have one of those amazing weeks again against them. And Carson Wentz showed that he, can't carry a team. The Colts are 6-6. I just don't see the Colts as being the team out of the AFC top 2 teams we've just talked about to be the one that rises up.
Yeah. The Titans have to hold off the Colts, but that has more to do with the Titans continuing to slide than the Colts coming up and going on this run and finishing 11-6 or 10-7. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think that if the Colts end up at 9-8, I think everyone would be not surprised. It'd be like, okay, if they end up 9-8, 10-7, that's about right for them. The Titans just need to get a couple more wins to hold off the Colts and win the division. And they'll make the playoffs. I don't think, unless they get healthy or something clicks and they start to turn things around, they're not doing anything in the playoffs, because early in the year, I would have thought they were a threat, but the last couple games, I've watched the last couple games that watched them play, and honestly, they just haven't looked good. And you can just tell, like, they're starting to, a talent deficit is starting to form because of all the injuries they've had.
All right, so let's talk about the best team in the NFC at this point, and coming out of the NFC West, the Arizona Cardinals at 9-2. They had a bye week last week. Kyler Murray hasn't played since week 8, and they're still sitting at 9-2. They're in the driver's seat right now over the Green Bay Packers, sitting at 9-3. Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins are coming back into the lineup this week. They're, I think, the team to beat. I think that they're playing at the Bears this coming week. I don't think the Bears are going to intimidate the Arizona Cardinals. The only factor might be the weather.
Do the Bears intimidate anyone?
Yeah. Well, and Andy Dalton's going to be the quarterback this week, which actually probably gives the Bears slightly a better chance right now, the way that they're sitting.
Andy Dalton's not the future. Justin Fields is, but Andy Dalton gives them a better chance to win right now because, well, he's not a rookie, so he doesn't do the rookie things. Andy Dalton's not great, but he also doesn't do the rookie things. So, honestly, they're better off with Fields playing, but he's still banged up.
Yeah. Well, 3 of the next 5 games are on the road, and 2 of those are against teams that currently have winning records, the Rams and the Cowboys. So I think the Cardinals are sitting pretty well. I do see them kind of finishing off as the number 1 seed in the NFC, at least the way things stand right now. How about the Rams, 7-4?
The Rams were 7-1 and flying high. And honestly, yes, that one loss was to the Cardinals, but they had just come off, a really intense,
3 games in a row,
meaningful game against the Bucs, where they went and they beat Tampa, and then they had the Cardinals right up after that, and they kind of laid an egg, and so you're okay, fine, maybe that's just that, but they were winning, they were dominating, they were looking great, and they were sitting at 7-1, and now they're 7-4. They've lost 3 straight. They haven't looked particularly
Matthew
good.
Stafford's thrown 3 straight pick 6 interceptions in 3 straight games. That's kind of crazy too.
So, I mean, basically what you had with them coming in is what were they going to run? What was their offense going to look like? Because you knew it wasn't going to be the offense that they had under Jared Goff, because they've actually got a competent quarterback now. But I don't think anyone knew exactly what the Matthew Stafford version of the Rams offense and the Sean McVay offense was going to look like. I think teams have adapted. They figured out, okay, so we need to take certain things away. Plus, there's the Robert Woods injury, and they're trying to figure out how do you use OBJ in that role, because they're different players, and there's certainly a chemistry there with Robert Woods, and so I think there's some issues, and there's some stuff they're trying to figure out, but for them to lose 3 straight, like, they're falling back to the pack. They're only a game up over San Francisco.
Yes, but that's for the 5th seed.
Yep.
And then there's a drop off.
Yeah.
So it seems like the Rams are safe.
Yeah, they are safe
currently.
I think
at least
are.
as a playoff team. Yep. But they don't want to go in to the playoffs in this sort of shape. I mean, they do need to right themselves. Yeah, but it's going to be challenging after the Jaguars game coming up. They do have the 4th most difficult schedule remaining in the league. So it's not going to be handed to them. They're going to have to go earn it. So let's talk about the NFC East. The Cowboys sitting at 7-4, followed by Washington. Surprise, Washington at 5-6.
Yeah, Washington's won 3 straight. They were 2-6. They've also beat some pretty bad teams. I mean, they just beat Seattle, but Seattle can't beat anybody.
Well, they held
the
ball for 41 minutes in that game.
Yeah, Seattle's defense can't get off the field for anything. I mean, they're not. Seattle's really not playing good football in any way right now, and so Washington, they've played some bad teams. They've been able to get some wins. They've got some confidence. Taylor Heineke's starting to look good and turn that corner. The fact that they've come up and they've passed the Eagles to become the number 2 team in that division, I think is promising for them. If they can keep this going, there's a very good chance that they come up and take that 7th spot in the.
So after the Raiders this week, they play 5 games in the NFC East to finish the year. So 2 against the Cowboys, 2 against the Eagles, and 1 against the Giants.
And
so
playing against the Eagles and Giants gives you an opportunity to get some wins.
It does give you an opportunity, and they need to go take it. Nobody's going to hand it to them. Like I said earlier, they got to go take that. So,
and the Cowboys have lost 2 straight. They're 7-4.
The Cowboys have one of the best offenses though in the NFL.
Yes, they do. And they've actually got a pretty good defense.
Pretty good defense, really.
Their defense is about to get healthy. They've been missing a couple of very key guys.
And their ball hawking defense, which is a great sort of defense to have come playoff time. It really does set yourself apart.
Yep. So they've been having some problems. They've had Amari Cooper's been on the COVID-19 list for the last 2 games, and they're 0-2 in those games. And why? Well, the offense has sputtered some without, the receiver. And that's because the way that they make you defend the entire field, not just the length, but also the width of the field, and the fact that they can run it power, they can run it inside, Zeke can catch the ball out of the outfield or out of the backfield. They make you defend the entire thing, and without Amari Cooper out there, there's been a lot less of that. Defense has been able to really bottle up their offense the last couple of weeks. And so it does kind of show you that, okay, maybe they don't have the personnel to be super deep. They need people to be healthy, but Cooper's going to be back this week. So
and they face the Saints, which, the Saints are struggling on offense, but they certainly have a good defense still. So,
yes, they do.
Dak Prescott, I think, and Ezekiel Elliott really need to have great games in this contest in order for Dallas to prevail.
Well, let's talk about the Saints, because the Saints aren't one of our top 2 teams. They're technically 3rd in the NFC South, which is the one team we haven't talked about. The Bucs are 8-3. They're not going anywhere. Do
you want to just talk about the playoff picture in general?
Well, kind of, because after that is the Falcons, who are at 5-6. Sorry, but they're kind of a bad team. They have yet to score 200 points. The only other teams that have that distinction are like the Bears and Lions.
Let me throw that up there. Okay, so there's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and the Saints at 5-6, they've lost 4 straight since losing, Jameis Winston. And you're starting to see like they're going to start a new quarterback this year or this week because Trevor Simeon's not getting it done. This was a team that looked like they were. You could not just pencil them in, but pen them in as the 6th seed behind the Rams as the second wild card team until Winston's injury, and they just can't do anything offensively since then.
But they're, the 4 of their final 6 opponents have losing records. So they do have a chance, but they're on the outside looking in right now.
Absolutely.
So let's go through this wild card race. On the AFC side, we've got, if the playoffs were to happen right now, these would be the matchups. And that's what this graphic shows. So you've got the Chargers against the Patriots, the Bills against Tennessee, and the 5 seed Bengals against the 4 seed Kansas City Chiefs. Those are all really interesting teams to me. And it's really nice to have new teams in the playoffs this year, where teams just have been on the outside looking in for a long time, i.e. the Chargers, and they're getting an opportunity now to kind of come in and see what they got.
But honestly, they need to hope that that matchup changes. Because
are we scared of the Patriots now?
They
weren't even going to be in the conversation like 3-4 weeks ago.
True, but you still have Bill Belichick. He's still. I know that people are trying to write him off because Brady left and they had to rebuild, but he's still the best coach in the NFL. And you put that seed together. It's not that the Patriots are a significantly better team than the Chargers, but the Patriots are great. They're just so well coached. They will take away what Justin Herbert wants to do and make him beat you in other ways. And they will take advantage of the fact that the Chargers cannot run the football to save their life, or cannot stop the run to save their life. And they will just run it up the middle over and over and over again. The Patriots will, and make that game just miserable for the Chargers. Against another team, I think the Chargers would have a shot, but
are there any other matchups in this graphic that you think are interesting?
I think LA and the Cowboys could be a super interesting matchup.
Yeah, with Matthew Stafford going up against.
Assuming that LA figures out and they adapt and they get back on track. I think that could be a really interesting matchup. Green Bay and Washington sounds like a snooze fest as Green Bay runs up the score, and kind of 49ers and Bucks is the same way. Like
the Bucks would just completely take it to the 49ers in that matchup, I think.
The 49ers just don't have the quarterback play to compete in that. So really the NFC is not as interesting other than that one game. But I think all 3 of the AFC ones are interesting.
I do too.
The Chargers have been on the outside in and just missing the playoffs so many times. Like for them to get in and then be one and done because they're going to get out coached.
So my dad served in the Navy and was stationed in San Diego. And while he was there, became a San Diego Chargers fan. So growing up, I kind of had a soft spot for the Air Coryell teams and the old Oregon quarterback and just the great tight end play there and Junior Seau, and I mean, just great teams in the past. And so it's kind of nice to see them revitalized again, even though they've moved now to Los Angeles. You always kind of want to think of them as San Diego. It's just one of those things. It's going to take a while.
Have I said? I'm fairly confident I have said San Diego somewhere in this episode.
And if you did, I probably missed it because I was reminiscing as you were talking about my dad in the Navy.
Like I'm LA being, the LA Rams, like they were the LA Rams for a while, you
can kind of get used to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's like easy. They're the LA Rams. The Chargers in my head will always be partly in San Diego, and I will always struggle with that one. And it's not that I'm not trying, but I will struggle with it. It's just the nature of the thing.
All right. So I'm gonna take this thing down, and
no, but then they have to look at me again.
Oh, I know. But we're gonna get out of here. That's the good news for everyone. So I think we kind of skipped over the Bucks Falcons a little bit. Packers Vikings. I think the Packers are going to run away from that, obviously, and same with the Bucks. So just jumping into the playoff scenario is a little bit more interesting and fun. So let's go forward. I just want to mention too, on the other show, the draft side of this podcast that usually comes out on Fridays. We're talking about top 10 tight ends, top 10 wide receivers this year in the draft eligible players for the 2022 draft. We're ramping up, getting kind of going on our lists and marching towards the off season as we head towards Senior Bowl and Combine type stuff. This year, I think the Combine is actually the first week in March. I'm gonna have to adjust that a little bit because it's always been the third week of February. So a little later this year, but next show we get to talk about players like Drake London and Garrett Wilson on the wide receiver side, and Jalen Weidermeyer at tight end, who seems to be kind of running away with the tight end position this year. So that'll be a fun to talk about, fun show. Everyone come back for that. If you're paying attention to your mock drafts and your big boards already, it'll be a good show packed with information on players that you're wanting to look at for the remainder of the college football season. So until next time, you can follow Keith at Myers NFL. I'm at Alvstad NFL. The show is at PF _playbook on Twitter. Pro Football Playbook.co is our website. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform and YouTube. And please subscribe to the show. We need lots of subscribers. So we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks. Thanks for listening to the Pro Football Playbook Podcast. Follow Keith at Myers NFL. Bill is at Alvstad NFL. The show is at PF _Playbook. Listen and subscribe on your favorite podcast app or YouTube and at our website, profootballplaybook.co.